to set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
What is up, my fellow film buffers? All apologies. Late drop today. A lot happened. It's just been a wild morning, and I thought there was going to be more of a window to record this. The wild thing is I wanted to do Six String Samurai. I wanted just to drop it today. I hadn't recorded it, but I had other things in queue, so I bumped everything. And then when I don't record for the episode early enough to drop by 8 a.m., I have to bump my YouTube episode because there's roughly a 2-hour break. With all of that, AKAPAD, TGIF, welcome back. I've tried to record this episode multiple times, and it just seems like it's always a failure on some level. And the reason for that is we can talk about the genius and the brilliance of Lance Mangua. This is our director of Six String Samurai. When I was watching Six String Samurai recently on YouTube, it's available for free on YouTube. Just watch the freaking thing. I'm saying to myself, man, like we put this movie with The Crow, with Blade, with The Matrix, with Dark City. It fits perfectly. And then I later find out that our director, well, he directed one of The Crows, the Eddie Furlong one with Tara Reid and Dennis Hopper, Crow, Wicked Prayer, Angel from Buffy's in this freaking movie. It's viral. People make fun of it. I can't speak on it now. The next Crow, where the dude ends up on death row, I've seen it. Haven't done episodes on it. Around the time of the Crow remake, I wanted to do a little bit of a Crow week. Didn't quite get there. I wanted to even do Stairway of Heaven, the Crow TV show. Wicked Prayer is now on my list. I have to watch this movie after experiencing Six String Samurai. Made for $2 million. Lance was able to secure the final money he needed to make Six String Samurai through the festival circuit. He got attention, won a Sundance. It was a Garden for Rio. 2 years prior. Let's just make sure. We get some of our Garden for Rio, 1996. So he wins, gets the money. 2 years later, we get one of the best post-apocalyptic movies ever. We can put Six String Samurai along with all the Road Warriors, Fists of the North Star, The Road, Children of Men, Book of Enoch, or Book of Eli, Denzel Washington. If you want a triple feature, I would watch The Crow, because Crow's a little bit post-up, but I would just watch it. Let's just watch The Crow. The Crow, Six String Samurai, and Jean-Claude Van Damme's Cyborg. That would be, I mean, Six String Samurai, Jean-Claude Cyborg is like, that's the freaking movie. Both of them too, like both martial art movies too. Perfect. Six String Samurai looks like a $30 million movie. Six String Samurai has one of the best opening narrations or prologues, which is the Russians attack the U.S. and what is left that's not controlled by the Russians is Elvis and Las Vegas. And now we see a little bit of this like music culture, which our star, Lance Falcon, which is maybe the great Jeffrey Falcon. Still a great name. Lance Falcon would have been better, but Jeffrey Falcon, he's a martial artist. He's a stuntman. He has spent time overseas. This guy looks like Buddy Holly. We have this concept of like, kind of like similar to how like steampunk or even, a good example recent would be the idea of like the world of the new Fantastic Four movie, which is Reed Richards creates and invents everything in the 60s, and the world doesn't quite evolve past the 60s. Like in steampunk, it's like, well, we're just going to lock everything into Victorian, steam-driven London town, UK. And now as a viewer, as a part of the audience, it takes a little bit to just absorb that and to go with it. I Things like Mortal Engines, the Peter Jackson produced movie, didn't quite land, and I think that's one of the reasons. It's hard to sell people on a fantasy world that doesn't quite have the concept built into it of evolution. And this is a little bit of like the Star Wars problem, or even what we see in Star Trek, where we're in the fantasy environment, but we're locked in, and the slow evolution of technology, society, and all these other things are just not present. It's a hard concept for audiences to really swallow, because in our daily lives we absorb and we see and we witness the opposite of what some of these fantasy worlds are dictating. Some of them are wild enough to just go with. I believe Six String Samurai is wild enough to go with, where we're done with the movie. We have passed the torch, or the sword, if you will. We want more. We want more of this story. What these guys were able to do with $6 million, and there's so much credit that goes to Jeffrey Falcone, our star here, who is credited also as set designer, where some of his sets are just sold. He clearly at this time, like, experience, there's things that he picked up, there's things that he saw, maybe he knew who to call for a little bit of extra help. But there's one scene where he's just going through these, like, astronaut, because it's a little bit like the Warriors. So we're on the journey, we're on the quest to Vegas. In the Warriors' case, they have to make their way back home to Coney Island, and along the way they're going to run into crazy gangs, and one of the gangs are these astronauts. They're in, like, astronaut gear. He slays them all, but we're in this, like, windy drape, like, torn fabric outdoor environment. It's just freaking cool. But the whole point of the movie is to get to Vegas. We have this music culture that is the language of the movie. We have a band, what are they called? The Red Elvises, which phenomenal. There's an early music sequence that runs like a music video. Call it MTV editing. I don't really care. Lance does such a good job in just staging everything. We can say, because this movie is so watchable, that it was perfectly scouted. Now, some issues at the end, the final battle on top of the hill with Death, and there's like a little bit of a highway, a road, but they found the roads. That's the road to Vegas. Death is basically at the gate, at the last steps to, like, get into Vegas, like, right? Like, so Death is, like, guarding the gate to Vegas pretty much in this movie. Maybe some of that could a little bit better, but even at the end, Lance does such a great job in blocking everything, where from corner to corner of the screen, of the frame, it feels full. It feels real. And to do this for $2 million, to do this with the resources that we know that these guys had to have the vision to know how you're going to go about to shoot Death and his gang, and have them be faceless, and just have them move in a certain way, but have them look like, in a way, a special effect. AKAPAD. This is one of the most visionary independent movies, one of the most visionary movies, period. I will put Six String Samurai as a visionary work up against anything, for Prometheus or Blade Runner, for example, that is easily labeled as visionary. This is what visionary filmmaking is all about. This is what independent filmmaking is all about. And to roll back to some of the music, the style of music in this movie, it's ska, it's Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, it's Zoot Suit Riot. It's a little bit what we see in Jim Carrey's The Mask movie, like earlier in the 90s. And what happens, like the independent movie, ska music fades away. It just bleeds into forgetfulness, like the true independent American movie has. Now, given people have crowdfunded, they've made movies, but there was something about and the way that we look at how Lance got the money for this, there was a competitive nature to break into Hollywood through the best content possible, through the best thing you could make. Kevin Smith did it with Clerks, and we saw it with Slackers. And by all intensive means, this movie was supposed to and should have been next in that line. Now, why it didn't happen is it's unfathomable. I don't want to upset myself. I don't want to research any interviews, because if that question gets answered, I'm probably going to get pissed off. I don't see how Six String Samurai doesn't get we're talking about Jeffrey Falcon. We're talking about Lance, our two guys. How these two guys don't get deals with Dimension, New Line Cinema, Miramax, Fox Searchlight, Sony Picture Classics, whatever, Miramax, whatever independent entity was coming up from some of these bigger studios, or the ones that were built from the ground up, something like New Line Cinema before they were acquired by Warner Brothers. It's beyond me. I watched this movie and I'm thinking about The Crow the entire time. I'm just like, man, this is such a great movie to pair with The Crow. There's just solutions visually that both of these filmmakers are finding together but separately, and right, like, that's a juxtaposition, but then there's a congruency at the same time. Opposites can be true from time to time. That I was just like falling in love with. So, and I researched Lance, and Lance did direct Crow Wicked Prayer, and then he becomes like a production guy. I'm thinking this guy's going to had to have done some movies I've heard of before outside the Crow Wicked Prayer. So I get like a little upset. I get a little bit pissed that Lance's career didn't leapfrog into like this other area, this other zone, because I feel the world of Six String Samurai is just so well put in front of our face, and we have a movie with limited dialogue, but we have great sound effects, and we have great choreography, and great cinematography, and fantastic music. And we don't expect our independent movies to be so glued and grounded to music as this one is. Then on top of it, be post-apocalyptic. This is impossible. Like, when we look at this movie, just if we were to write the bullet points on the whiteboard, it just seems impossible to make. Six String Samurai is one of the greatest independent movies of all time. It's one of the most visionary movies of all time. Anyone that's a film buff would see this, and anyone that doesn't or never heard of this movie is not a film buff. And then that's what Fridays are all about. We're about in my view, a lot of the movies that matter. Fridays are independent movie days. But I feel that if a movie is independent enough, it transcends being labeled as an independent movie. It just simply becomes a film, a movie, or in this case, an experience. AKA Powders, TGIF. Thanks for sticking with me. It was a rough one to get this one out today. I'll tell you that right now. AKA Powders, I love you guys. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.